All right, so let's look at solving some two-step equations. One thing to keep in mind, whenever we're evaluating equations, we always follow this special rule called the order of operations. And so if you know the order of operations, you may remember it's parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, and subtract. And we usually follow this order when we're evaluating. We start with parentheses and we keep things in this order, right? But when we're solving, what we actually have to do is we actually have to go in the opposite order. So solving an expression for a variable is kind of undoing what we do to expressions when we evaluate them. So in the same way, I need to undo the order of operations to know which to do first. And so which is going to come first when we undo the order of operations? Typically, we'd focus on multiplication first. But since I'm undoing it, the first thing that comes on my list is the add and subtract portion. So I'm going to first start by subtracting 4 from this side to get y by itself. This is what we want to get by itself. And since I subtract by 4 on this side, in order to keep the equations the same, I need to subtract by 4 on this side also. And so now 4 minus 4, that just resolves in a 0. And what I'm left with on this side is a 2y equals, and 8 minus 4 is 4. So 2y equals 4 is what I'm left with. Now I can go back up. Now I can work on the multiplication and division portion to get y by itself. And so what am I going to do to undo this? If it's 2 times y, well, how do I get y by itself? By undoing this operation? Well, the inverse of 2 times y would be dividing it by 2. So we're going to take both sides and we're going to divide both sides by 2. And so that leaves me with 2's canceling, giving me just a y on this side. And that's equal to 4 divided by 2, which is 2. So y equals 2 is going to be the answer for this variable. Let's look at another one real quick. All right, so again, we're solving for p here. What I want to do is I want to get p by itself so I can know what p is. And remember, when we're solving, we're kind of undoing a bunch of operations. So since we're undoing operations, we're going to be going in reverse order of the order of operations. So first thing I'm going to be dealing with, I have a division going on here, and I have an addition going on here. Normally, we would deal with division first because of order of operations, but since we're solving for p, we're undoing these operations, so I'm going to focus on this addition first. So what do I need to do to undo adding by -6? What do I need to do to this side to get rid of this plus -6? Well, if I just add +6 to this side, the -6 and the 6 will cancel, so that's good. So I'm going to add +6 over to this side also, because it's an equation and I have to keep it balanced, and adding the same amount to both sides will do that. And so now, what am I left with when these two variables cancel out to 0? I'm just left with p divided by 3 is equal to -2 plus 6, which is 4. And so now I can worry about this multiplication division here, because now when I go in reverse order, I can get to multiply and divide first. So p divided by 3, how do I undo p divided by 3? Well, the inverse of division is multiplication. So instead of dividing by 3, I can get p by itself if I just multiply it by 3 on both sides. And so the 3's are going to cancel here, and that leaves me with p equals 4 times 3, which is 12. And you can verify this answer. If you just go in here and you do 12 divided by 3, well, that's 4 plus -6. What's 4 plus -6? That is equal to -2. So this answer does work, and it should always work if you get the right answer. Sometimes you can avoid getting a point off on a quiz or something if you just check your answer and make sure that it's right. Let's do one more. All right, so here we go. So let's just make sure we keep track of order of operations. Remember, we're undoing a bunch of operations to get g by itself. So what we need to do is we also need to undo the order of operations. So normally when I would start with parentheses and exponents, I'm actually going to leave those for last. And so let's take a look at this. I have g plus 15 is all divided by 8. That's what this means. When this bar is going all the way under g and plus 15, that means the whole g plus 15 is being divided by 8. What that kind of implies is that I can't split up this g plus 15 until I deal with this divided by 8. Sometimes people will just subtract 15 from both sides, but what they don't realize is when you subtract 15, you're not getting rid of this 15 because this is actually 15 divided by 8. So I cannot subtract 15 actually until I get rid of this divided by 8 because it's being divided this whole thing. So I actually have to deal with this 8 first. And what's happening here? It's being divided by 8. So what I need to do to undo divided by 8 is I need to multiply by 8. And so if I multiply by 8 on one side, I also have to multiply by 8 on the other side. And so that leaves me with g plus 15 is equal to negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. And now to get g by itself, the only thing I can do is get rid of this positive 15. And so if I have a number plus 15, the way to get that number by itself is take away the 15 that's added in the first place. And then I'm going to take away 15 from the other side also to keep the equations balanced. And so now I'm left with g after these cancel. And then negative 24 minus 15, that should get you negative 39. And so g is equal to negative 39.